Hey guys, my name is Enadark, and today we will be looking at everything that you need to create the legendary weapon, the Frostfang. As you can see in these pictures, the Frostfang is a beautiful axe that looks like a dragon's head. The jaws of the dragon makes up the blade, and it really reminds you of Jawmag. The Frostfang gives the player a lot of different icy and frosty effects, and it also leaves behind a trail of snowy footprints. To craft the Frostfang, you will need the following 4 components: the Tooth of Frostfang, which is the precursor, the Gift of Frostfang, the Gift of Fortune, and the Gift of Mastery. Each of these components, except for the precursor, are made up of components of their own, and the order in which you collect them is up to you. However, I do have a recommended order of doing things, which I will share later on in this video. So let's take a look at how you can collect all of the items required to create the 4 main parts of the legendary. The Tooth of Frostfang. The Tooth of Frostfang can be bought on the trading post, which at the time of this video is going for roughly 400 gold. It can also be earned through a series of collections that you can access in the achievements panel if you are interested in doing it that way. However, I will not be covering that in this video, as I find that you spend more gold on completing the collection than you do simply buying the precursor from the trading post. Lastly, just like any of the first generation precursors in Guild Wars 2, the Tooth of Frostfang can actually be dropped from enemies in the game, so make sure that you have completed the Advanced Logistics Mastery, and that you tick all of the auto-loot functions in the option menu. If you do decide to buy it on the trading post, and you have the patience to wait, then I recommend putting in a buy order to save some gold for the rest of the legendary. Doing this can sometimes take a couple of days, so if you do not have the patience or you urgently want your legendary and you have a lot of gold to spend, then you can go ahead and buy it at the selling price. The Gift of Frostfang is one of the more expensive parts of this legendary. It consists of the Gift of Metal, the Gift of Ice, 100 Icy Runestones, and a superior Sigil of Ice. To craft the Gift of Metal, you will need a character with weaponsmithing at level 400. You will also have to buy the recipe for the Gift of Metal for 10 gold from Miani, who is next to the Mystic Forge in Lion's Arch. Once you've done this, you will need to combine 250 Auric ingots, 250 mithril ingots, 250 darksteel ingots, and 250 platinum ingots at the weaponsmithing table. To craft the Gift of Ice, you will need a jeweler at level 400. You will also have to buy the recipe from Miani for another 10 gold. Once you've done this, you will have to buy the Gift of Sanctuary from the dungeon's weapon and armor vendor for 500 symbols of Goda. The dungeon's weapon and armor vendor is just south of the 4th Mariner waypoint in Lion's Arch, as you can see in this picture. To obtain the symbols of Goda, you will have to do the Honor of the Waves dungeon multiple times, or you can do the Honor of the Waves reward track in either PvP or World vs World a few times. All of these options are good, as they will reward you with additional gold and materials that you can later use in this legendary. So it is up to you to choose which of them you want to do. Combine the Gift of Sanctuary with 250 Orichalcum ingots, 100 glacial lodestones, and 100 corrupted lodestones at the dueling station to create the Gift of Ice. The Icy Runestones are a part of the legendary that you unfortunately have to spend gold on. They cost 1 gold each, and you need 100 of them, so it adds up to a total of 100 gold. You buy them from Rojan the Penitent in Frostgorge Sound, just northwest of the Earthshake waypoint, as you can see in this picture. If the Jawmag event is running, then Rojan may not be there, and you will have to wait for the event to finish before he returns. The superior Sigil of Ice can be obtained in many different ways, but the quickest and easiest would be to just buy it from the trading post. The Gift of Fortune goes into all of the first generation legendary weapons in Guild Wars 2, and it is a very painful part of the process. It consists of 77 Mystic Clovers, 250 globs of ectoplasm, a Gift of Might, and a Gift of Magic. To obtain the 77 Mystic Clovers needed for the Gift of Fortune, you will need to place 10 of the following items in the Mystic Forge: Obsidian Shards, Mystic Coins, globs of ectoplasm, and Mystic Crystals. This recipe will return an output of 10 Mystic Clovers, so when you get to 70 Mystic Clovers and you only need 7 more, swap out the Mystic Crystals for Philosopher's Stones. Please note that this recipe only has an approximate 32% chance to return Mystic Clovers, and can instead return a number of different materials, including tier 6 materials, which is needed for creating both the Gift of Might and the Gift of Magic. So it is important to do the Mystic Clovers before you do the Gift of Might and Gift of Magic. The Mystic Clovers can also be obtained in various other ways, such as PvP and World vs World reward tracks. So if you do not want to create them in the Mystic Forge with this recipe, then check the wiki for the other methods of obtaining them. The Gift of Might and the Gift of Magic are both made up of different tier 6 materials that will have to be combined in the Mystic Forge to create the respective gift. The Gift of Might consists of 250 Vicious Fangs, 250 Armored Scales, 250 Vicious Claws, and 250 Ancient Bones. The Gift of Magic consists of 250 Vials of Powerful Blood, 250 Venom Sacs, 250 Elaborate Totems, and 250 Piles of Crystalline Dust. Once you have obtained the 77 Mystic Clovers, 250 globs of ectoplasms, the Gift of Might, and the Gift of Magic, you can combine them in the Mystic Forge to create the Gift of Fortune. The Gift of Mastery also goes into all of the first generation legendary weapons in Guild Wars 2, and it is a rather cheap part of the process. However, it can be extremely time consuming, as you have to finish the world exploration of the map of Terria. This does not include the Maguma Jungle from Heart of Thorns expansion, or the Crystal Desert from the Path of Fire expansion. Upon completion of the map, you will be rewarded with 2 Gifts of Exploration. Each legendary only requires 1 of these gifts, so for every time you finish the map, you can make 2 of the first generation legendary weapons. Combine your Gift of Exploration with a Bloodstone Shard, which you buy from Yanni, who is next to the Mystic Forge, a Gift of Battle, which you earned through the Gift of Battle reward track in World vs World, and 250 Obsidian Shards in the Mystic Forge to create the Gift of Mastery. Once you have obtained the Tooth of Frostfang, the Gift of Frostfang, the Gift of Fortune, and the Gift of Mastery, you can combine them in the Mystic Forge to create the Frostfang. Creating legendary weapons can seem like a daunting task, and no matter how much you play, you will never have enough gold or materials to create them. But here is a list of my favorite farming locations to speed things up a bit. The Silverwastes. The Silverwastes is still a great place to farm for materials and gold, as there are always commanders on this map, and you can run it multiple times a day without worrying about event timers. When you do the Silverwastes, you will also receive a lot of Obsidian Shards from opening the Lost Bandit chests during the chest farm after killing the Vine Wrath. Tangled Depths and Auric Basin. The Tangled Depths and Auric Basin map meta events are a great place to farm resources such as tier 6 materials, and they always happen directly after one another. Each of these will give you the option to choose an amalgamated gemstone as your reward once per day, which at the time of making this video sells for about 90 silver, meaning that you can make an extra 1.8 gold just from doing these events. World Bosses. Doing world bosses is a great way of farming for materials. You can do each boss once per day per account, and they will always drop a bonus chest that contains a rare or exotic piece of equipment that can be salvaged for globs of ectoplasm. The chest dropped by the boss itself also has a higher chance of dropping precursor weapons than any other chests in the game. So if you are thinking of trying to farm for precursor weapons instead of buying them or crafting them, then this is the way to go. There will always be a lot of players fighting the world bosses, meaning that the events will be relatively easy. Please note, your character has to be over level 40 to have a chance of receiving any rare gear from the event. Fractals of the Mists is probably the most rewarding thing to do in Guild Wars 2. The issue here is that you need at least one character who is fully geared in Ascended gear and has around 150 agony resistance, and getting a character to this stage is very difficult and can be very expensive. You should do the daily tier 4 fractals, as they will also give you the rewards of all the tiers below them. Doing the daily fractals with a good party will take less than an hour of your time, and it will reward you with an approximate 10 gold. You should also buy the deeply discounted fractal encryption keys from the Buy 4373 merchant in the Fractals lobby once per day and use them to open the fractal encryption boxes that you get as a reward for doing the daily fractals. Dungeons. Dungeons are not nearly as rewarding as they used to be, but some of them are still really quick and easy to do, and the amount of gold gained for the amount of time spent in them is totally worth it. The dungeons I recommend doing are the Ascalonian Catacombs Path 1 and Path 3, Sorrow's Embrace Path 1 and Path 2, Twilight Arbor Up and Forward, Citadel of Flame Path 1 and Path 2, and the Crucible of Eternity Path 1, 2 and 3. Make sure that you have a good group that wants to and knows how to do each of these dungeons before you get started, as doing them with a group of players that's never done them before will end up being a total waste of your time, and you should rather spend this time farming the Silverwastes. Normal, World vs World and PvP dailies. When you are finished with the Gift of Battle reward track, and you've already done the Gift of Sanctuary, but you still feel like you want to play more PvP and World vs World, then I suggest that you keep doing the daily World vs World and PvP achievements, as you will receive more rewards from the reward tracks, so you should check the wiki to see which of the reward tracks are the most worth your time. You will also receive 2 gold per day for completing the daily achievements, so if you do not enjoy playing World vs World or PvP, then you should still do the normal daily achievements. To make the process of crafting this legendary as fun as possible while saving some gold, I recommend that you do things in this order. The first 3 things that you should focus your attention on is the Gift of Exploration, the Gift of Battle, and the Gift of Sanctuary. You can do them in any order you like, but I recommend first doing the map exploration while doing the daily PvP and World vs World achievements. This will reward you with potions that can further your process of your reward track in both PvP and World vs World respectively. So make sure that you have the Gift of Battle reward track selected in World vs World and the Honor of the Waves reward track selected in PvP, as this will reward you with Symbols of Coda. If you do things in this way, then you should finish the Gift of Battle and the Gift of Sanctuary before finishing the Gift of Exploration. The reason I like to focus on these 3 things first is because you will end up receiving a lot of materials that you will need later on in the legendary, such as the Mystic Clovers, Obsidian Shards, Tier 6 materials, Globs of Ectoplasm from salvaging rare and exotic gear, Orichalcum and many more. When you are doing the Gift of Exploration, you should make sure that you have gathering tools equipped and that you gather every single resource node that you run past. The next thing you should do is focus on the Gift of Fortune, starting with the Mystic Clovers, as the recipe may also return some of the other Tier 6 materials needed for the rest of the legendary. After doing the Gift of Fortune, you should finish the Gift of Mastery. Next, you should do the Gift of Frostfang. Lastly, we have the Precursor. I usually buy the Precursor before I do anything else when I make a new legendary weapon. However, I know that a lot of other players prefer to buy it last, so it really is up to you to decide when you want to get the Precursor. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, then please give it a like and share it with your friends who may want to create this legendary weapon in the future. If you have any questions, please ask them in the comment section of this video. And if you are interested in creating other legendary weapons, but you don't know how or where to get started, then consider subscribing to my channel, as I will be bringing out more guides like this one in the near future.